Welcome to the Discovering Your Future podcast, hosted by Jarvis and Lucy from FCC's audio production program. In this podcast, we interview professionals to scope how they navigated their career. Through listening, you will pick up tips about developing professional networks, learn ways to manage your career, and discover pathways to finding purpose in life. It's never too early to begin planning your career path, and it's never too late to make a change. So please, kick back and listen in. Hello, welcome back to part 2 of our episode with Julian. We're going to discuss further how timing played an important role in her career journey and led to many more opportunities. So kick back and let's continue our discussion with Julian.
That brings up a really, and this is something we talked about before, in our discussions, and that's timing and when you decide to do things. And so I'll ask you this, how does timing work with or in terms of like moving to LA and just taking it from there against a career? How has timing shaped your career and the choices you've made?
Timing's very important, and this definitely circles back to honesty, with yourself and what you're ready for or what's a good choice, for you at the time. I was offered a move to Chicago originally with hotels, and it was such terrible pay that I could barely pay for rent and like regular expenses with the offer that was made. And I was so sad to have to turn that down. It was a struggle to actually say no because I wanted that opportunity. I wanted to move. I was dying to have that chance and didn't want to pass it by, but just knew that I couldn't take that, that particular job. So when the opportunity came to move to California, we definitely really talked about it, made sure it was, going to be worthwhile for my husband and I, for both of our careers, and it couldn't have gone better. So when you really sit and outline everything and are honest with yourself about what works, then it definitely works out for the best. I mean, I went to LA without a job. My husband was the one who got the transfer. But his HR director knew a hotel across the street was needing managers, and she had my resume there before I even got off the plane. So, when it's meant to happen and it's good connections and good people, then things just roll. I remember saying, I can't start this week because the moving truck's coming. Can I start Monday? Like, they were like, come on over, let's go, get started. And I'm still connected with his HR director. She's stayed connected with us on LinkedIn, which is, I think, one of the great tools that you have then to keep professional connections alive. And Raina, I'll never forget her. She was really helpful and integral in my career in HR because she had connections in HR in LA and told me about HR groups to attend. So it's just interesting, how you meet people along the way and then they just stay a friend and mentor and partner or,
Yeah, I mean, hopefully she'll hear this episode because obviously you're like, well, she was just wonderful. I think she would love to hear that.
Is she still in LA?
Yeah.
Is she still in LA? Okay.
Nice.
I believe she just retired last year, though, from hotels finally. Yeah.
Well, if you're listening, congratulations.
Congratulations. Hey.
Yeah, but as I look at my career, so my first HR director, if I have to say more names, it was Peg Sobek, and so she's my true mentor and was the person who introduced me to HR and held my hand and then let me, kind of fly and be on my own. And then at the nonprofit I was at, my director, my CFO, Alan, was, a wonderful mentor too. And it's interesting as an HR person who had to report to a financial officer because you're very different people, it's very different careers, but, we really got along well and I learned, quite a bit from him as well. So you meet great people along the way and those are people that you'll always want to keep in touch with.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you mentioned LinkedIn. I'm like, man, that must truly be like the Facebook of professional relationships. Like, because you saying that you're staying connected through LinkedIn, just remind me of like how somebody might reconnect on Facebook with an old friend from back in the day. But it's like a professional relationship, so it's like they might have an opportunity for your kids, or you might know somebody from 20 years ago, have a son that's 18, interested in the path that somebody professionally, they might have an opportunity for them out the gate. You know what I mean? It's just crazy how LinkedIn has kind of stepped up its game, is becoming such a powerful tool for making connections, making professional connections.
I think that a lot of people don't like it because they just think it's social media, and I don't want to do that, especially older adults. But I've really learned a lot about it in the last couple of years now, being at Phoenix Meccano. We're very active. Our CEO, Philip Brown, is very active in Frederick and sits on many boards. And so I learned from him that, the connections you make even within our Frederick community, it's just so great to be able to connect on LinkedIn, and then we're sharing things. If I'm going to a career fair, maybe someone else I know is going to be there as well. Or if there's classes that the chamber is having, you see like, oh, I see that she responded to that. I want to go to that training class as well. And so it's a great professional way to network. I really recommend it for people to be active. In fact, when I was at Tuscarora High School for mock interviews, one of the girls I was interviewing wanted to work with children and be in child development. So I told her a couple of the places here in Frederick that I know of that are very active that way, and said, you should really get on LinkedIn, start to follow them, because you'll see their job postings as soon as they go up. And sure enough, she friended me the next day, and I sent her the link so she could follow the YMCA, and those are important connections.
Yeah, I'm actually learning a lot right now. Yeah, we got an email from Ann, who's our pretty much our supervisor with this podcast and career transfer services, and she basically told us like we should consider making a LinkedIn. And it was only a few days ago, but I didn't realize it didn't click as much until kind of now, after hearing like some of these success stories, that like LinkedIn plays a really big part of making connections that may lead to opportunities, jobs, trainings that you never thought you might be able to get into that are good for your resume. I mean, it's kind of all over. I didn't know there was that much involved with LinkedIn.
Yeah, so when I came to Maryland, I wasn't working really in HR. I didn't come and take a part-time or full-time job right away. I was consulting, but that was all because my son was younger, and then we had COVID, and it just was, I needed to help him through his studies. So while he was studying is when I decided to go to my SHRM certification, which Society of Human Resources Management is our kind of national HR group that you want to be part of. And they have all kinds of good information online. But if you want to become a certified professional, you have to study and take a 4-hour test, not for the faint at heart. And not easy. Not everybody passes. It's not the kind of certification that if you just go through the course, you get a stamp and you move on. So I studied during COVID and then got my certification, which was probably a good 20 years into my career. I felt like it was a good step, a good refresher for me, and making sure I was staying on top of things since I wasn't with hands-on in, HR, in an HR office at the time. And I felt like that was a great step for me. And with the networking you're talking about, the instructor of the SHRM study class I took actually was the HR person previously at Phoenix Meccano.
Wow.
And so that I learned about an opening that came up at Phoenix Meccano, and that's how I applied for the position, because we were connected and following each other on LinkedIn. And Andrea, thank you for the connection, and thank you for being a great instructor, because I did pass my SHRM test the very first time around. And it's just so key that you find people along the way that you want to use as a resource and that you have a personal connection with, to ask questions to, and to share what's happening, or questions you have about where they've been. I think you learn a lot. And so LinkedIn to me helps to continue those connections. And you, without having to talk to somebody, can see what they're doing, can get ideas from them. I get ideas for work from where I see groups volunteering around the area, because we like to go out for volunteer days. So we're actually headed to the food bank soon, because I was like, oh, we haven't done that yet. Let's go to the food bank, you know.
A lot of what you're talking about is, like really being aware of where you are and what information you're getting and who you're meeting. And I feel a lot of that comes to, there's a motto that you said that you enjoy. And it's very simple, but I believe it's very powerful, and that's explore, dream, discover. Could you elaborate what that means for you?
So for me, it started with my love of travel. I've always enjoyed reading travel books, and even if it's a place I don't think I'm going to go visit, I love being able to then, think about that place through the writer's eyes. But when I think about it for work, I think it really does, in talking to students, if we're, right now, if you explore, that means get out there and try all your options. Think about where you want to be and go try jobs in those areas. If you're going to dream, it's going to be big picture. Like for me, I knew I wanted to move, so I couldn't really move as a speech pathologist as easy as I could move in a hotel. So that was easy. That helped my dream. And then discover is just looking for ways to always be inspired. Even if I'm at the smallest hotel, let's say, when I first started, that's okay, because I was still inspired by helping those people there in that hotel, or what my next trip is going to be. You have to find what's going to get you to work every day. What's your motivation? And it should never change, or it should never stop. Your discovery is always going to be evolving, right? And you're going to want to try new things. And I just think that that's why the explore, dream, discover is just a great motto for a career, because you have to continue to learn and grow, and you have to continue to set your sights further down the road for yourself. Because if you wake up and don't want to go to work, then something's gone wrong. If I didn't want to get, I knew I didn't want to get in the car anymore in LA and do that long commute, I had to make a change. So you have to find a reason to want to, keep moving.
Yeah, discover your motivation. I like that. Discover your motivation.
Yeah, and to all those listening, I think that's really powerful. And that's not to say that they have to adopt the motto, but to find something like that motto, and all of the stories you've told, all of your experiences that you're sharing, you can hear when you're exploring, or when you're dreaming, or when you're discovering, and that's something that's never stopped for you. And so to look at the bigger picture and see what you've done and how you can apply that to something like this motto or a completely different motto, I think that really helps, especially with something like identity or where you want to go. It's a really great tool to have, even just those 3 words.
I think, I'm going to ask you, because you're both students, but I sometimes feel like students feel like there's a goal line, right? Like you're going to cross over and you're going to be done. You get that degree and, then that's it. Yay, moving on. I want to say that I get it, wanting to put it behind you for a bit, because I did. After my SHRM certification, I was like, whoa, no more of that. Okay, too much testing. Yeah. But eventually, you have to look for the next thing. You have to discover more. What gets you up and what gets you moving, and makes you happy each day. So I've been very, very grateful, very lucky to just be able to find good people and good places to work that allow me to continue to grow. We at Phoenix Meccano often say, it's your opportunity. There isn't a large ladder to go up. There's only so many people in the building, but you can explore and grow yourself as much as you want. So if that means, going to some additional classes or a workshop, a certification, find what that is that's going to excite you. And for me right now, it's just learning more about Frederick and all of the various community groups that we have out there that we work with. I couldn't be happier with our experience with Frederick County Public Schools and FCC. And, I met the two of you because of the job fair that was here.
Right, yeah.
So it's amazing.
Yeah, was it job internship fair?
Internship fair, I believe.
Yeah. And, this for me is brand new. Never been on a podcast, never thought I would. So this is me taking a leap, and trying something new. And I think it's just exciting to expand. And that's what Discovery is all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Yeah, I mean, thank you again, as always, for coming on here and really, like you said, expanding and like really trying something new. We really appreciate that.
If you would have asked me a year ago, I probably would have said no.
Had to discover a little more. That's awesome.
A really interesting thing you said is like, you have to keep finding what's going to like get you out there and get in for your example, get you to drive to work each morning. Mm-hmm. And I think that plays into also like a growth. And I think an important thing to think about with growth is, work-life balance. Like, how do you maintain a work-life balance in your industry? And how has that changed from, when you started and where you are now?
I think in the beginning, I didn't think about it at all. Right. I was young. I had, a lot more energy, and I was like, sure, a commute plus a 12-hour day. That sounds amazing. Let's do that. But, you get to a point, I think it's when you pay attention to how you physically feel and even sometimes emotionally, like, just are you really just tired? Or, if you're not excited, then that's not good. But in particular, I've just found along the way, I think from that time, from that shift in LA when I made the big change, I just learned to really look at where I was going to go work, know more about the company, ask good questions. An interview when you go for a job should be you asking just as many questions as they're asking you. So find out more about what their culture and expectations are. I mean, in a hotel, they're probably going to be honest and say, we do banquets. Weddings go till midnight. You're going to be here till 2 a.m. cleaning up. Oh, man. So if that doesn't work, you need to recognize that. In particular, where I currently work, we make sure to promote even in our job ads. We're basically an 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. kind of company as far as when people are in the building, our business hours. And no nights, no weekends. And so not everybody can offer that. A lot of jobs that have logistics and production like we do have you work nights, late shifts or come in on weekends for overtime.
24-hour operations type of deal. Some of them.
Yeah.
Like I know all these warehouses close by, or one of their main warehouses is close by. They do 24 hours, 3 separate 8-hour shifts if I stand corrected. Yeah. And but some people like that though. Some people like working nights, having the day to themselves and having weekends, and they like alternating shifts. People,
absolutely.
But working logistics like that'll work your way up the ladder. Like I know they have like warehouse positions, but then there's levels up to like supervisor positions, logistics. I forget all the positions, but where you're working more in the office setting and kind of managing and doing managerial.
Learning all about the inventory and property.
And probably inputting inventory, truck deliveries, making sure you have of what's on paper.
And for some people, if you either love that shift or if you do it for a short period of time to get that learning in and that experience under your belt, and then you can move to a different shift, that's great. But, for me, having a son in high school and, wanting to be part of, PTA and volunteering and doing other things, it was important to me that there's some flexibility with work and that I knew that going in. So I really appreciated knowing that other managers and even the CEO are very family oriented. And, besides their volunteering and being active in things in Frederick, they're also active with their families and doing things in their kids' classroom or going to their basketball games. And, so that meant a lot to me.
Yeah, I'm assuming the schedule definitely helps promote that.
Yeah.
The 8 to 6, no weekends, no nights. That's really beneficial.
Yeah, and you do have to ask that. You have to be honest and find that out in advance. I think you can learn a lot too about a company from LinkedIn, and just seeing what do they post. Can you see what the people are doing, and are they happy? Especially if you can make connections. Like maybe if you wanted a job and you see another FCC alum is there, you can reach out to that person. So it's important to do your homework, basically.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
That's how I'm looking at it right now. Like research, it seems like will give you a lot of information, especially if you want to achieve that work-life balance. If you have all the time in the world, want to work an open schedule, flexible schedule, go that route. If you want a more structured schedule, you can research the companies that offer things like that in the industry you want. It sounds like you can really do to achieve work-life balance. You can research what companies offer what you may want and see who they have. And I'm sure there's sacrifice involved. It's not like every position in every industry is a perfect world, you know.
Right.
But I'm sure you can guide yourself to the right places without dealing with taking a risk on something that may not play out good for you in the long run.
And some places offer good perks for the second shift or third shift, so sometimes that's really motivating for people, that they know they can go in and make double time or, better than minimum wage.
Right.
No, that's good. That's a really good point too.
Coming to a close here, do you have any projects or initiatives that you're working on or that others are working on that excite you and that you'd like to share here?
Just very excited about, like I said, the connections here in Frederick. So FCPS has been a wonderful connection, and we're very excited about supporting young students, especially the high school students, trying to find their way. We've had students come in, tour our facility. I've gone out and talked with students, and I think Frederick does a great job in having students start to think about it early. They're going to start their exploration hopefully earlier than any of us did and see what they like and what they don't like. So that's been very exciting, and we really support apprenticeships and internships. So we just recently had 2 interns from FCC over at the facility in our logistics and production departments. They finished a certificate program here and came to work for us for 2 months for an internship. So just always trying to, and not only do that for community service, but it's really great to bring in new people into the building and new ideas and just learn from each other. We have people from all over the world really that work for us, and every intern and every new hire just brings a new kind of flavor to the to the mix. Yeah, new energy and new thoughts. So we're really just focusing too on helping students find their way, and I think it's exciting. Like for me, I get energy from that. I love going to talk to the students or having them come visit us and show them around and answer their questions. So those are some interesting things happening with us at Phoenix Meccano currently. And then, just going to set my new travel schedule, I think. I got to plan a trip to Japan here in the next year or so. So, yeah.
What part of Japan?
I don't know yet. Most likely, Tokyo, of course, but haven't dug in deep enough yet. I got to start doing my research.
I understand completely. You got to try all the good ramen out there. The culture out there obviously is just really dope too. But yeah, I'm sure you'll enjoy that.
Yes,
I'm sure you'll.
Very excited. When I travel, it becomes sort of a hobby, if that makes sense. I like to really read about it ahead of time, and I'll try to look for shows and do a lot of research.
Try to build an itinerary.
Right.
I think that's real important. I used to think going on vacations, like, why are we having an itinerary? Like, that is so lame. Yeah. But, like, when you don't have an itinerary, it is way harder to find and reserve what you really want to do when you get there. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, if you plan it out, you're able to do a lot more. You'll realize how much more you can accomplish and do and have fun doing.
Right.
One of my first trips with my husband, we went to Europe, and I'm a very checklist person, and I I had done all the reading and even had a tour book with me. But after a few days, he wasn't as excited about, let's go see these 5 things. So we compromised, and he's like, what are your top 2? And I said, okay, these are the top 2, can't miss those. And then we went, and I'll never forget, we went to sit in a cafe in Verona. We were in Italy. Okay. And we sat there and we looked at the Colosseum that they have in Verona. And it was amazing, and we just enjoyed people watching. And then we went back on our tour bus and we kept going. And as we left, the tour guide said, everybody thinks of the Roman Colosseum, and little do they know, the Verona Colosseum is actually operational. And so they have operas here every year, and you can come here in the summer and see a beautiful opera in this old Colosseum. And I said to him at the time, I said, you're going to have to bring me back here. So guess where we were last year?
Wow. You went and saw an opera?
We went back to Verona, and we saw an opera.
That's amazing.
In Italy. So it all comes full circle. Again, that's connections and listening to people and the people around you, just like you do professionally. Like him and I had to compromise there. We couldn't do my whole checklist of, 10 things. Yeah. But I really learned along the way to just, sit back and appreciate too. And it made it, I think, even more meaningful then to go back there to that same spot and really enjoy ourselves. So that's how we spent our summer last summer. We were in Verona.
That sounds awesome. Wonderful.
That was awesome.
If our listeners would like to contact you and learn more about what you do, or about what you've done, or the opportunities that they can have, or if they just even want to ask you a question, where would be an appropriate place to contact you?
Definitely LinkedIn is the best place to reach out, because I should get a message there from anybody on LinkedIn. If they're local here in Frederick, they can also give me a call at Phoenix Meccano. But I think reaching out via emails probably, or LinkedIn message, is the best way, because then we can connect and find a time to talk.
Visit her on Tara Julian HR.
It is linkedin.com/in/Tara, TARA -Julian-HR.
All right, so coming to the very end here, the finish line, if that's what you want to call it. Do you have any advice at all you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I think we've covered a lot. I hope that, people get something out of this, that they feel inspired, or it's kind of a light bulb, moment for them. Yeah. But no, I think everybody has to find their own path. Mine isn't the only, way, and my explore, dream, discover, inspires me. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to do that for anybody else, but I just hope that people get out there and find options for themselves, because there's more than one way to pursue your career, and there's, I think, even more than one career for everybody. I don't think you have to stay in a particular lane, so be brave.
No, there you go. That's a great way. That's a great way to end it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciated your time here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, it's nice to have you.
We hope this episode has inspired you and given you direction in your career. We appreciate your continued support. If you have any questions or topic proposals, feel free to leave them in the comments. Don't forget to visit the FCC Career Services website at www.frederick.edu/careers for helpful information on discovering your career.